Hi, this is the plan stage weekly meeting for 23rd of October 2019. I'm going to start off with the team update section. Didn't really know if this was a team update or something else, but I thought I'd put it here. Heinrich's now backend maintainer, so he'll be reviewing and merging a bunch more MRs. And congratulations to Heinrich, he's done a great job there. Catherine's got something in the big picture updates, which is read only. It's about UX research. So I don't know if Holly, you had any context and you wanted to take this item?
Let me pull up the agenda. I apologize, I didn't have it in front of me. This might be Alexis if she's on.
Doesn't look like it. Okay, we could just read the item. So Catherine created an epic to review the open UX research issues plan to help us determine priority and discuss the other high-level research questions. So please take a look at that epic. I added a point about the dev section strategy review. So the dev section being plan, manage, and create. That Eric Brinkman ran yesterday. Gabe, Keenan, or Mark, did any of you want to talk through that at all? I've linked to the video and the questions doc and the actual page in the handbook, but I don't know how much you wanted to talk around, like maybe the plan part of that strategy.
Yeah, I can talk through it right quick. Let me share my screen right quick. There's a chance that it will tank and everything will freeze, but if that happens, I'll be back and you guys can continue on. All right, cool. You should be able to see my screen at this point. So this is at about.gitlab.com/direction/dev. I guess the major changes that we've deprecated the idea of a stage level vision page. So like if you go to direction/plan, it will redirect to dev, but we're still maintaining the category level strategies. And so the general goal for this is just to make sure that like as we grow and as we get bigger, we maintain alignment across stages and then also within the same stage. So hence rolling up to like a section level kind of strategy and vision. There's also the shift that we're trying to move towards having a 1 year kind of roadmap, I guess, which we're considering a 1 year plan, and then a 3-year strategy, and then a 10-year vision. I think that's what it says in the handbook. So this is the first like kind of like iteration on rolling all that stuff up at the higher levels. So there's a couple of themes which you can look at, and I'll just like kind of run through these pretty quick. Some of them have to do with plan, some don't, but kind of improving code review, increase efficiency of the value stream, which is something that analytics is working on within the managed group or managed stage. DevOps for more personas. This is kind of applies to us where we're trying to, we're already loved by a lot of engineers, but we're trying to become loved by other roles like product managers and designers, for example. So another theme is enterprise digital transformation. This is like, I think a big kind of thing, but it's really relevant to organizations that aren't using DevOps. When I was at CAB last week, there's a lot of our customers who have a small segment of their organization using GitLab and continuous integration and those sorts of things, but they're championing it within their organization. So it's definitely like trying to help it spread across the entire company and not just like in a subset of it, which is kind of how it is right now for a lot of our customers. This one definitely applies to us, project management more so than product management. And I think this is where this is a shift in a lot of organizations that are struggling with it. When I was on site with the customer, they lamented that they had made this transition, but really all they did was change everybody's title from project manager to product manager, and they didn't change any of their processes. And the point of this is instead of delivering like a time box, we have a fixed set of scope and requirements, and we're going to get delivered on time and budget. Organizations are evolving into looking at the life cycle of a product or a thing that they're working on, not just like do we get launched, but what happens after it launches? How do we grow it? How do we nurture it? Are we delivering business value, and are we delivering customer value, and kind of looking at the bigger picture? And I think that's the heart of this kind of theme. In terms of one-year plans, this is where I think we're going to invest a lot on our Kanban boards. I would like to propose changing this to boards at some point in the future as we integrate things like epics and maybe other entities within GitLab into the boards, is like even as visibility issue boards, and Kanban boards seems a little bit too like pigeonholed, but I'll bring that up separately. We really want to do things like making it first real time and making it more collaborative for team members where everybody can work around the same kind of issue board. They can collaborate on it in real time. They can interact with the issues in all their glory without having to navigate away. And then there's also some integrated analytics and things there. So it's kind of more aligned with like what a team is really doing and all in one place. Another big goal is to make it so that we can import customers from Jira without losing required data. So it's something that I'll probably be working on with Manage as well, because they have an importer group and they're going to be working on that. And then we're going to invest a lot in enhancing portfolio and project roadmaps. So building a better road mapping tool. This is going to involve kind of epics, and I don't know, Keenan's working a lot on this stuff right now, which will also enable easier top-down planning. And as part of this, kind of exposing better reporting and analytics. So answering questions like, are we going to get done on time? How much is this costing us? What's the scope of this? Has the scope changed? Does my team have capacity to work on these things? There's just a lot of different questions that people are answering, even within GitLab, that we're not able to answer or give them right now. And then Mark is heading up the requirements management piece, which is more for regulated customers, but I think there's also a lot of value in taking some of the concepts from the idea of requirements management and then incorporating them into kind of the life cycle of a product. So a requirement is like an expected behavior of a system, but that's also the same thing as like a feature, right? A feature should behave a certain way, and it's going to live longer than an issue. Like an issue might implement a requirement, but then the requirement stays around longer than that because it's part of the core product. And so what does that look like, and how does that play into kind of the idea of transitioning from project to product? I think will be a interesting thing to explore over the next year. And then as we kind of go down, there are links to all the stages and categories here. So within plan, you can kind of click it through to see high level roadmap. This is the same thing I think that is on our handbook page, the links to like the overall plan roadmap. Stage level metrics you can find here in the dashboard. It's in Periscope, and then the definitions are on our handbook page. And then you can click through to each of these strategies for the different categories. I will be updating these some. I did go through and update these, like at least my 3 within the project management group. So it's worth reading through them because it's like, it's not what was here a couple months ago. And I'm going to try to update these again and probably run through the category specific strategies with the team next week, if that works. But I won't go through all that stuff today. Does anybody have any questions about high level vision, plan, strategy, concerns, any discussion points? Okay. I think that's great. If you do, let's talk about it. Sean, I think you have the next item in workflow.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. I think that's a good summary, and it's a great thing for people to sort of digest and then maybe give feedback on as well. So yeah, I created an issue from last week's discussion to describe some new grooming steps that we were going to add. I still haven't actually figured out how I'm going to add them, but like these are just things to make sure that like, you know, we don't have an issue that doesn't have back end or front end, but should have one of those labels because it needs a back end or front end engineer to work on it. Because if we don't have those labels, neither of those people will see it. And similarly, does it have a group label? Like, you know, if it's in DevOps plan, that's fine. But, you know, if people are looking at the project management group label or the portfolio management group label or the certified group label, they won't see something that's missing any of those. And then a couple of other like, items like around security issues and blocked issues and whatnot. Actually, blocked issues might be kind of fixed anyway, Mark pointed out, because we'll add first-class blocking issues. So we won't really need the workflow state, or if we do add the workflow state, it's kind of like, what's the word? It's kind of just mirroring the actual like, native blocking issue state. So yeah, basically the form this is going to take is that EMs and possibly PMs will get pinged on automatically created issues every so often to do these tasks. I don't think we need meetings to do these tasks. We just need to, have an item that creates a to-do in GitLab and pings everybody who needs to work on that, and then they go through it. So yeah, basically mostly interesting to me, John and Donald. That one. And then the next one, John, did you want to take this, or do you want me to take it?
For the dashboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I can go over it. Like they're dashboards that show our KPIs, or the KPIs we're measured against. So throughput, mainly throughput over time. There's one for portfolio management and certifies backend team, and one for project management's backend team. And I think Donald has there that he has one in progress as well. They don't include security MRs in the count at the minute, so the numbers will be somewhat down on what they actually are. But it's just the first step to help us track against the things that we're measured upon, which is, so many merge requests per engineer per quarter, per milestone. I don't know.
Month, yeah. Yeah, it's per month. But just to be clear, like the performance indicators, like at the development level, like we're creating these team dashboards just because it's useful for us to know as managers, but the performance indicator isn't at the individual level. We're not saying each individual person needs to do this in every single month or whatever. Like that's not the goal here. We recognize that there's variability, and yeah, we're not really interested in looking at this on a person by person basis. It's more about like, is the team health okay according to this performance indicator? On the security issues, actually, I think I saw somewhere that we're going to move development of security issues to GitLab.com at some point soonish. So hopefully once that happens, then that gets included in this data for free. Otherwise, we will have to go and update our dashboards.
I have one just comment about that, and I don't know where to take this up, like, and I haven't thought about the best way to do it. But one of the things I think is interesting and potentially like not ideal is that it seems like engineers are gauged on throughput in terms of merge requests, but like that doesn't necessarily correlate to customer value in a way. And like I'm trying to figure out how do we all align behind like a single like health metric that maps to customer value delivered, right? So like we can split something up and break it down into 4 different pieces and merge those 4 different pieces, but those could not have any impact on perceived value to the end user, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
So anyway, like I don't know how to solve for that right now, but I just wanted to raise that as like a general tension that I've noticed over the last several months.
Yeah, one of my team actually mentioned sort of not exactly the same concern, but a similar concern where they were like, well, not all MRs are equal weight. So, like it's not like you can just say one person did 10 MRs and one person did 3 MRs, but like those 3 MRs are actually, more work and weren't really easy to decompose. And of course, there's the question there about like there might be 3 that created like tremendous value for customers and 10 that didn't really create any value for customers. So from my perspective, and this is just me talking, I don't have any special inside knowledge here. I see this as like a staging performance indicator where like once we get the health of this performance indicator, once we keep hitting this performance indicator, we then like start to refine it and like make it more directly related to those goals that we have as a company. But this is like a simple thing to measure that we should be able to like accomplish as a performance indicator on the way to that point. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just how I would like to see it happening. That's like, my dream about this.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the things that I've done historically and that's worked well is not weighted and like not added weights to defects and not added weights to things that didn't add customer value in some way from like an issue standpoint, right? So if you have a bunch of defects, and I know it's like would produce a little bit of challenge from a capacity planning standpoint, but the weight kind of equals the amount of value shipped. So by using that kind of as a way to indicate that, it's easy to differentiate between those issues that are just like I'm fixing a defect or I'm paying down some technical debt that we accrued, which is not technically customer value, and just being able to differentiate those issues in some way or another. That way you can look at throughput that way from like weight delivered or some other metric delivered. But that's just something to think about as we kind of evolve this.
Yeah, totally. There's actually, sorry, go on.
I would say we could do that just by looking at the weights attached to feature and direction labels, right? Like we won't have to stop weighting other issues.
Yeah, we could do it with labels.
We had if everything, and yeah, just because I mean I know from a capacity planning standpoint that could be rough. Just thinking of other ideas too, but.
Yeah, I think I've definitely read the idea before that bugs are essentially all the same weight because it's not just for like customer value perspective, but from like a project management perspective. Like a lot of the time, by the time you've weighted the bug, you've kind of figured out how to solve the bug. So you're better off just like assuming they're all the same weight and then like deferring the actual like investigation until you dive in to fix it. There will be some that blow up, but like normally you can decompose those. But most of the time it's like if you've investigated enough to give it a really confident weight, you probably already know how to fix it. And then like, the rest is just typing pretty much. So yeah, I think there's definite value in that approach. I don't know if we want to go ahead with that now, but if we do, like feel free to create an issue and I'll take a look at it because I do think that's an interesting way to do things, and it seems like it works from the product side and from the engineering side.
I think sorry, Conky.
I was just gonna say I'll open an issue and we can discuss it, but go ahead, John.
Yeah, I mean, like I know it's not a perfect metric, but I think if there's one thing that's positive about it, it's that it's blunt and its bluntness is obvious. So. And then if you look at some of the immediate alternatives, like measuring weight, that tends to put upward pressure on estimations, whereas measuring the number of MRs actually puts downward pressure on issue complexity because people are encouraged to break issues up into smaller pieces and do them in smaller increments. Look, I know it's a blunt measure, but I think it has some benefits as well. There's also the thing that, like, a security, a security fix used to generate 8 MRs. Now it generates 4. So that would just slice a whole bunch of our metrics.
Yeah, it still generates 8 for now because we haven't got 4 releases away from the single code base. That's like the trick there. But yeah, I think actually the target is now 8 MRs per engineer per month because of the move to a single code base as well. I'm sure I saw that somewhere. So yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I'll if you create that issue, Gabe, that would be great.
I feel like there were also issues like when I first started around, like when we started really using throughput as the KPI around what we want to measure. Like, does it make sense to use MRs, or do we want to track at either the issue level or a weight level? I don't know if that's just an open issue. I think Dahlia was leading that back then. Do you remember that, Sean? Or, well, I don't know if anyone else was around.
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, I'll look it up and see, because that would probably be the best place to continue this conversation, because I doubt that it was closed out, because I think the plan was eventually, like, we went with MRs as the measurement just because at the time that was the easiest thing to measure. But let me look and see if I can find that issue, and I'll put it in the agenda and ping you on that.
Cool. I'll put it in the issue that Gabe creates as well, maybe, depending on how relevant it turns out.
This is also kind of important because we're going to be building this into the product. in the like next few months. So it's like a big thing. Like basically, like, are we going to get done on time is the question that a lot of customers are asking, and I think we ask too. So it's good for us to be involved in the conversation, as it will also shape how the product evolves, I think, over the coming releases. I encourage everybody to participate.
Cool, thank you.
I think I have the next item. Yeah, this is just something we noticed during the week. I mean, that if you'd used like different boards to prioritize issues in a column or under a label like ready for development, that they wouldn't just move in another board, which you would expect, but they jump around in the main Kanban board. And I think it's possibly because like the numbers used for sortability are like vastly different for different boards or for different contexts. I don't know, Sean, you might know better, but I think if you reordered something in the solely between plan certify items, the values would be much lower, and those would jump to the top of the ready for development column in the overall board. Does that make sense?
That's because
Yes.
everything is relatively ordered or sorted, I guess, across like globally. So you could go do that in the issue list as well, like where you search and filter issues, and it would impact anything that happens on the board as well when you're manually sorting, which I think is like great sometimes and really bad other times.
So we could probably just pick one, like always, like when we're doing prioritization, always use the plan Kanban board. Maybe.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like if you're moving something into in dev, it doesn't matter too much, because like at that point the priority is like you're moving it to in dev because you're assigned to it, right? Like so like that's like the priority is that's actually being worked on. I think it's more important in the left hand columns, like getting up to ready to development through scheduling and planning breakdown and stuff like that, because that's the point at which people will actually see things in that order. Nobody looks at the ready for development, nobody looks at the in dev list to see what to work on, because that's stuff people are already working on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Shanae, that's us.
Okay, awesome. Well, have a good week, everybody. Yeah, I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Bye.